Let's move on and continue our coverage of Irma. Florida residents aren't just facing a killer storm. Thousands of them have called a special hotline to report price gouging. They say they're being overcharged for basic necessities like food, water, and baby supplies. Some people complain that one company was charging more than $30 for a case of water. Florida's Attorney General isn't happy about it. She had this message for retailers taking advantage of the storm.
Shame on you if you're trying to gouge someone with water, with food, baby supplies, things like that, hotels, the airlines.
All right, well, for more on this, I'm joined by Global Business Executive Ryan Patel. Ryan, thank you for joining us. I want us to be absolutely clear. In a state of emergency, are all price increases of goods and services considered price gouging?
Well, it's specifically on commodities, and there's language is really kind of broad after that, and that's what you're seeing the AG from Florida make it a little more clear for everybody to saying it's not just on food, it's on all essentials. They even went to generators. They were talking about generators today, how that's a necessity as well.
Because I've seen, according to some reporting, that even home help, in terms of elderly people that need additional assistance, that the prices for that have gone up, which is why I asked how broad it is in terms of the category.
I know we're going to talk about maybe the airlines. Look, they're talking about the pets being included free. So, I mean, it even went off one more step further to saying, you know what, we're not going to charge you for that. Okay. Right? I mean, they're expanding the language to say, to include everybody that's in there, to evacuate, because, again, in this instance, they're talking about evacuation and not so much just staying as well.
Okay. I want to read part of an article written by Adam Millsap. He is the Assistant Director at the Center for the Study of Economic Prosperity and Individual Opportunity at Florida State University, and he has a different take on price gouging. He says this, let's put it up on screen. High prices incentivize consumers to purchase only what they need to satisfy their highest valued wants and leave the rest for others. Meanwhile, high prices incentivize producers to increase supply. People who want to help shouldn't be demonized for raising prices to recoup their higher costs. Is he right, Ryan?
Well, to a certain point. I mean, I agree with what he said from a business perspective, but what he's missing in this argument is what is actually the cost to, it doesn't cost $100 to sell a whole bottle of case of water, right? And yes, the demand and the supply is being limited because people are using it. And on top of that, it's also up to the consumers not to buy more of what they don't need. And the panic is really being drawn because part of it is because the prices are going up. So I think in theory, he's right on a sense of, yes, the prices, supply and demand economics. But in this case, the price gouging is going 3-4 times above what he's talking about. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The airlines, I know Delta came in for some criticism because a young lady called Lee Dow took a screen grab of a price hike she was faced with. Let's put that up on screen quickly. And this is what she discovered. She was trying to get a flight out, and she saw the price jacked up from $547 to $3,200. I want to be clear that a Delta spokesman said actually that fare was actually posted by Expedia, and that when Lee Dow reached out to them, they were able to remedy the situation. Again, you mentioned the question of good old-fashioned economics. Listen to what Seth Kaplan from Airline Weekly had to say.
And it's a tough question, Brianna, when you're talking about airlines. Where is that line between supply and demand economics, which is what they say, and gouging? With a gas station, everybody knows if all of a sudden they're charging $8 for gas, that's what's called gouging. But airlines always price airline tickets differently depending on demand, and obviously in this situation, there's a whole lot of it.
What's your take?
Well, first off, Delta wasn't the only one who was increasing the prices, right? American did as well prior to that. And at the end of the day, the airlines are actually not held by state law by Florida, right? They're by FAA and the Department of Transportation. And on top of that, the problem what I have now that you saw them come out and cap the prices was now there's only limited fares. So JetBlue did come out real quickly and said, here's our $99 one way to get out. But there's only so many limited fares that are left. And for them to say, yeah, for a little while, let's say this is a $3,000 flight, there's only one seat left, but what are you going to charge when they actually were sending a few more planes? And they weren't charging that. You know why? Because the consumers weren't going to pay for it. They were getting ousted by it, and that's why you saw American Airlines.
So that's why they did it.
Listen, the AG from the Attorney General came out from Florida calling everybody out, and then all of a sudden they came out and said they're all partners together. That tells you something. The airlines listened and they had to change.
Listen, here's the thing. In a crisis like this, in a time with social media being what it is, you want to do no harm as a company. Because whatever you do is going to get put on Twitter and on the platforms. And
more importantly, look at what Home Depot did. Home Depot actually froze their prices in the state of emergency. Who's doing that right now? And they, I think they gave over 300,000 of plywood in one day. So, I think to your point, more companies that are doing good, have to be recognized, and those who are not have to get informed.
Ryan Patel, appreciate it. We must go.